If you're looking for healthy vegan meals that are tasty, keep you feeling full, and are easy to make, then this video is for you. These are the 5 meals that I make all the time because they meet 2 criteria that I think is kind of key when keeping you full and satisfied on a vegan diet. The first criteria is that every meal I eat contains 3 things. Complex carbs are also sometimes known as fiber-rich carbs, and they're typically found in whole foods like fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grains. So I find that when I have that combination, the fiber-rich complex carbs, protein, and fat, I feel really good. I feel like my energy is nice and steady throughout the day, and I don't get hungry right after eating a meal. The next criteria is quantity. I like to eat until I'm full and satisfied, and even though that varies every day, there's generally around the same amount of food that me personally, my body likes to eat, and that kind of signals to my brain that I'm full. If you remember, I did a video on gut health where I interviewed 2 plant-based registered dietitians, and one of the things we talked about is satiety, and there's a lot of different factors when it comes to feeling satisfied and recognizing that you're feeling full, but one of them is that we have weight and stretch receptors in our stomach that signals to the brain when we're nice and full. So I like to make sure that I'm eating a quantity that feels good to me and that I'm full and satisfied at every meal. And as long as those meals contain those 3 things, the carbs, protein, and fat, I know that I'm going to be feeling good and my energy levels are going to be great. So all 5 of these meals meet those 2 criteria, plus they taste good and they're easy to make. So I hope this video gives you some recipes that you can try this week, and I also hope that it's helpful for you to see this formula so that you can replicate it whenever you're making meals at home. Thank you to Catalina Crunch for teaming up with me, and let's get started. This is one of my most made recipes. I make it at least once a month, and a lot of my family members also make it because we all love it. Lentils just make me feel so good, and this is great for meal prep because it actually tastes better the next day. We'll start by sauteing some onion and then adding lots of flavor with some curry powder, some dried coriander, cumin, ginger, salt, and pepper. And as soon as these spices hit the pan, they're gonna kind of bloom, they're gonna toast up and just become really flavorful and fragrant as well. And this will kind of permeate the whole dish with delicious, spicy but not too hot flavor. Then I'm gonna add my tomatoes, my coconut milk, and my lentils. This is kind of like a not traditional dal. You can think of it like that. And what I love about red lentils is they're split. So they cook down, they get super thick and creamy like this. And I finish this with a little bit of fresh lemon juice on top and a handful of cilantro just for an added kind of pop of flavor and freshness. Serve this with some fluffy rice, a little avocado, and cilantro on top, and you've got the perfect hearty filling meal. And if you want to add an extra veggie, sometimes I add some frozen cauliflower rice to the lentils. Up next, I have kind of a shortcut version of what some people on Pinterest refer to as egg roll in a bowl. This is a really easy meal to make, especially if you meal prep the main components, which are the rice and veggies. I tend to have just a container of rice and a container of the veggies in the fridge. I do that at the weekend, and then come lunchtime or come dinner time throughout the week, I can literally make this meal in 5 minutes. It's hearty, it's filling, and it's so good. So here I've got my shredded veggies and my cooked rice. I'm just gonna reach into the freezer, grab my veggie burger of choice. A lot of times I reach for this Hillary's brand. I think they're really delicious. I'm just gonna microwave that. You can do this on the stove or in the air fryer as well. And then once it's kind of warmed through, I'll just break it up with a fork until kind of like a ground meat consistency. Like you want it to be nice and small. Then I'm gonna add my rice, heat that up one more time, and then add my shredded veggies. And I love the fluffy warm rice with the cool crunchy veggies. I've also got some yellow carrot here. And then the dressing is super simple. I just do some fresh lemon juice, a little olive oil, and salt. Sometimes I also do a little bit of soy sauce depending on my mood and depending on which veggie burger I use. But the reason I love this so much is because you've got a lot of contrast going on. So we've got the hot cold combo going on, which I always think is just so satisfying. You've also got like the soft fluffy rice that contrasts the crunchy veggies. So it's just so satisfying. Up next, we have one of my favorite meals that I make all the time, and this is a loaded cereal bowl. Now, I love cereal. I think it's such a nostalgic, comforting food. I love how quick and easy it is. But the thing about cereal is that it usually doesn't have the protein and the fiber to balance out the carbs. So I find that I get hungry really quickly after a bowl of cereal. It's just not satisfying. So I like to make these loaded cereal bowls. They meet the 2 criteria when I do it this way, and I end up feeling so good. But there's also that like comforting, nostalgic, and convenient factor as well. When I make a loaded cereal bowl, there's 4 main components, and you can kind of mix and match based on what you have on hand. First, I like to have a protein and fiber rich cereal, obviously a vegan one. Then I like to have 1 or even 2 fruits because I really want to make sure that I'm increasing the quantity and having a good portion that is going to keep me feeling full. Plus, adding the fruit is going to add fiber as well as vitamins and antioxidants and all of that. So I bulk up the cereal bowl with quite a bit of fruit. The third component is a plant-based milk that is rich in protein. So something like a pea milk or a soy milk is a great option. Plus, it's going to boost the calcium in the meal. And finally, I like to add what I call sprinkles. Now, this kind of varies based on what I have on hand and what my mood is that day. Sometimes it's nuts or seeds or a drizzle of peanut butter or tahini. Sometimes I'll do some chopped apricots or dates, chia seeds, anything that you can kind of sprinkle on. All of that leads to a really fun cereal bowl that is nicely balanced and super satisfying. I teamed up with Catalina Crunch for this portion of the video because they make these really great vegan-friendly cereals that are so nostalgic. They have these flavors that taste so much like the childhood cereals that I love. Like they have a cinnamon toast, a dark chocolate, a chocolate peanut butter, a honey graham, which is also vegan, and a fruity. They're rich in protein and fiber, but they're made with very little to no sugar. And these are fun to kind of mix and match when I'm doing my loaded cereal bowl. So one of my favorite combos is to do the dark chocolate. And I love the way the dark chocolate pairs with raspberries. So for this bowl, I do banana slices and raspberries to increase the quantity and also complement those dark chocolatey notes. This cereal is not too sweet, which I also really appreciate. And I like that it's naturally sweetened with monk fruit and stevia instead of the sugar. So I'm really getting a lot of the sweetness from the fruit, and it complements those cocoa chocolatey notes in the cereal. Then I put on my sprinkles, and usually it's some kind of seed combo. I really like pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds, and do a little drizzle of almond butter, which just makes this so decadent and delicious. And then I pour on my protein-rich plant milk, and I have this super delicious, flavorful, super quick and convenient cereal. They contain chicory root fiber, so there's about 9 grams of fiber per serving, plus they're made with pea protein, and they are vegan friendly, gluten-free, and grain-free. I think my favorite is the dark chocolate. That's the one that I end up repurchasing, but I also really like the chocolate peanut butter and the fruity whenever I just need that little hit of nostalgia. And they come in resealable pouches, so no more stale cereal, and they can be delivered to your door, which is also very convenient. So if you guys want to try Catalina Crunch, you can click the link in the description box below. Use my code that will get you 15% off and free shipping. They offer a variety pack, which is really fun if you want to try all the flavors. So check out the link in the description box below and take advantage of this discount while it lasts, and I really hope you guys enjoy. One of my favorite videos I've ever made so far is an I ate like a Gilmore Girls for a day video, but everything was vegan and it was all recipes inspired by the show, and it's one of my favorite shows. And if you guys like that video and you want to see a part 2, comment below and let me know. But in that video, I made what I was calling pasta alla Suki, which is kind of a fancy mac and cheese. And this is a recipe that I never get sick of. I make it year round, and it's actually really nourishing, even though it's comforting and delicious and cozy. I'm going to start by making a butternut squash mac and cheese sauce. So I soak my cashews, and then to a blender, I add my plant milk along with my soaked cashews that I've drained. And soaking them is so important because that's how you get that silky smooth consistency. I add butternut squash and carrot with nutritional yeast. The nutritional yeast is going to add some B12 and also a nice depth of flavor, a little bit of umami cheesiness. I add my spices, some salt, some pepper, a little bit of cayenne pepper, but not enough to make it spicy. And the secret ingredient is the pasta water. The pasta water contains starch, so that really helps to emulsify the sauce, bring it together, and as it's a little bit thinner when you first blend it all up, but once you pour it onto the cooked noodles, it will thicken because of the heat of the pan and just cling to the noodles. So I cook my pasta until it's al dente, and then I finish cooking it in this sauce. So I do about 1 minute shy of the cooking time. And then I just let this simmer on low heat, and it will thicken and become super rich and creamy. I finish this sauce with a little bit of vegan cheddar cheese and a touch of fresh lemon juice right at the end. This is kind of what mimics that tang that traditional dairy cheese has. Then we're going to take this mac and cheese to the next level by making some vegan bacon bits from scratch. And so the way that we're going to do this is it's going to be half mushrooms, which is great because we're getting yet another veggie in this comforting dish. And it's going to be half bacon bits from tempeh bacon. And tempeh bacon is going to add not only delicious kind of sweet and smoky, savory richness, but also a little hit of protein, a little additional fiber as well. So we're going to first saute the mushrooms. If you hate the texture of mushrooms, which I don't know if Lorelai does, but I assume she does not like vegetables that much. This is great because we're gonna cook all of the moisture out of them, season them with garlic, smoked paprika, salt and pepper, make them really, really savory. And then we're gonna like crisp them up with the tempeh bacon. And this is gonna create a really delicious crumbly bacon topping that we're just going to scatter on top of the mac and cheese, bake it with a little bit more vegan cheese and some scallions on top. And you have this decadent, rich and creamy mac and cheese that actually has a nice balance of fiber, carbs, and protein. Got some veggies in there too, but look how delicious and comforting. Now, a lot of times it looks pretty like this, especially if I'm gonna have friends over or if I'm taking pictures for the blog, but other times it's just reheated from the night before, and I like to add extra veggies to it to really increase the quantity. Remember, quantity is a really important factor when it comes to feeling full and satisfied on a vegan diet. I think it's fair to say that most people like nachos. I personally love nachos, so I'm always looking for ways to have that nacho experience, but sometimes I want it to be something that is also really nourishing and it makes me feel good at the same time. So a dish that I've been making for years and years is potato nachos, and I love that you can really change this up based on what you have on hand or what you're in the mood for that day. It's balanced with that ratio of carbs, protein, and fat, but it also is just really enjoyable and fun to eat. So it's like a win-win-win across the board. And it's just one of those meals that I never get sick of, so I make it all the time on repeat. Now, this particular version is kind of a cross between two of my favorite comfort foods, nachos and chili cheese fries. This is kind of a potato nacho version of chili cheese fries. So all you're gonna do is chop up your potatoes. You can do this with any potato you like, including sweet potatoes if you kind of want to change it up. You can use a mandolin, but you want them to be thin so that they get nice and crispy. Do some olive oil, salt, and pepper. You could even do a little taco seasoning on top. That's really good. And then you're just going to bake these until they are nice and crispy. The next step is to warm up your chili. This is going to go on top, and this is going to be loaded with fiber and protein from the beans and the veggies. It's also going to add quick flavor, but you don't have to make it yourself. You can definitely use a store-bought version to make this meal easy, or I will put one of my favorite vegan chili recipes in the description box below. This is another meal I make on repeat, so you're kind of getting 6 recipes here, but this is a great one on its own as chili with some cornbread and fun chili toppings, but it's also delicious when you turn it into kind of cheese fries or nachos like this. And I always like to layer my toppings because I don't want them all to be on top. I want every single piece of potato to have loads of tasty toppings on top. So I layer on my warm chili, then I add some vegan cheese. This one from BioLife is really good, but any cheese you like will work. Then I pop this into the microwave, or if you want to keep the potatoes really crispy, you can do this on a sheet pan and melt the cheese in the oven. So for toppings, I like to focus on creating contrast, and because the base of this recipe is really hearty and spicy and just very savory and rich, I like to cool things down with the toppings. So I complement that with some cool, creamy sour cream. We've got pickled, kind of sweet and tangy red onions, and then something fresh like cilantro or scallions on top. Let me know which one of these 5 recipes you're excited to try first. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to check out the link for Catalina Crunch in the description box below. Use my code to get that 15% off. And I hope you guys have a really good day. I'll see you soon. Bye.